Hello and welcome into the Jackson Bleachers podcast. This is Friday, November the 17th. We're at about 3:15 in the afternoon on Friday, so this is a late podcast, but it's been a busy week and a weird week, and we got a whole lot to cover. We got a Grizzlies game Saturday. We got some news about Mike Conley that just broke about 2 hours ago. We got Tennessee's hosting LSU tomorrow night. And we got a whole lot of coaching search news and GRUMORS. But we'll get to Tennessee and all the GRUMORS here in a little bit. We're going to start out with actual news that just came down a couple hours ago about Mike Conley. And that is that he has we already knew his Achilles was bothering him. But now, according to reports a couple hours ago, he is out indefinitely and will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So obviously that is not what Grizzlies fans are wanting to hear, especially with a matchup against the Houston Rockets tomorrow night. But that is the latest so far on Mike Conley, is that he is out indefinitely with an Achilles injury, and he will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And since we are starting the podcast with breaking news about Mike Conley, let's talk Grizzlies first. They play the Rockets tomorrow night, Saturday night, 7 o'clock at the FedEx Forum, and it's a weird schedule quirk, but it is already the fourth and final time the Grizzlies will play the Rockets this season, and that has happened within about a three and a half week period. Really weird. They haven't even played, they've played New Orleans. I don't think they've played the Spurs yet. And they have played Dallas. I think they played Dallas twice, and they play Dallas again next week. So it's a weird early season matchups with Houston and Dallas. Still haven't played the Spurs, and they still play the Pelicans 3 more times after playing them once on opening night. So that is extremely weird, but what are you going to do about it? It's worked out for the Grizzlies so far, because that means they will have played all 4 of their matchups before Chris Paul is healthy and back in the lineup for the Houston Rockets. But the Grizzlies won the first 2. They won a game at Toyota Center and at FedEx Forum. Last Saturday they met, and the Rockets just blew the doors off the Grizzlies. Nothing was going right. This whole last week has been awful for the Grizzlies. Saturday is a chance to turn the corner, kind of turn things around, but with Mike Conley being out, that's really going to hurt those chances. Marc Gasol, with Mike Conley now, they're really going to lean on him, but he does have a good matchup with the Rockets' bigs. They're not that good. Gasol could have a big game. It's going to be a little tougher now with no Mike Conley. He's not going to have as much help. You're going to lean on Mario Chalmers a lot. Look for Andrew Harrison to get off the bench a lot, which is not that's not good news at all for Grizzlies fans, that Harrison may have to play more minutes. But this... Hopefully, the Grizzlies surprised people before. With all the injuries 2 years ago, they still made the playoffs. And hopefully this is precautionary for Conley, just to try to completely get him healthy. And it's nothing like he had made it worse. And this is just them being cautious to make sure he's healthy down the stretch, because it's been obvious if you've watched the Grizzlies that Conley has not been healthy, and they need him healthy if they're going to make any kind of playoff run. So rest him now. Rest him in November. Hopefully you get him back. They said they'd reevaluate in 2 weeks. Hopefully you get him back around Christmas, because reevaluating in 2 weeks does not mean getting him back in 2 weeks. So hopefully get him back around Christmas, maybe first week of January, hopefully, and kind of piece things together till you get there. Play about 500 basketball till you get there. Hope Marc Gasol can help you. Hope your bench stays big, even though that's going to be shaken up a little bit more with Conley out of the lineup. Saturday night tip-off is at the Grindhouse, 7 o'clock tip, and it will be on Fox Sports Southeast. The good news, Grizzlies have a chance. I guess people aren't really expecting a whole lot Saturday. The bad news for Grizzlies fans is it's the same time as the Tennessee football game again, which this looks like it's the last time this will happen this season, that they play at the same time, but you never know. Maybe Tennessee finds a way to win a bowl game, or beat LSU, beat Vandy, and gets in a bowl game. That's way down the road, but it seems like the last 3 Tennessee games have been right in the middle of Grizzlies games. But should be the last time this happens this year. Again, tip-off Saturday against the Rockets is 7 o'clock from the FedEx Forum, and it will be on Fox Sports Southeast. Okay, the Titans played last night, so we'll quickly move on to the Titans before getting into the college football slate and Tennessee. Titans looked awful last night. They got hammered. They really needed to come out strong because they were trying to stay atop the AFC South standings. They did not look good at all. They looked awful. Mariota just looked horrible. It was a piss-poor performance by everyone. Mariota threw 4 picks last night, and he was sacked 5 times. His total line, he was 22 for 33 with 4 picks, a touchdown, and 306 yards. Obviously not what you need from your NFL quarterback, the guy that you're hoping can be the face of your franchise. He's been disappointing. He's not been able to stay healthy, but this year has not been great from Mariota at all. The 4 picks, just awful. And I get a couple of them were tip balls and shouldn't have happened, but I mean they still did happen. That's 4 picks. You're never going to beat a good team on the road with 4 picks. You're probably not going to beat a good team on the road with 2 picks. Derrick Henry was the leading rusher for the Titans last night with a whopping 32 yards on 7 carries. So when your leading rusher has 32 yards, it's not a great game. Antonio Brown just lit up the Tennessee secondary last night. 10 receptions for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have a 41-yard reception. He was targeted 13 times and was able to catch 10 of those. Just a horrible game for the Titans. One they want to forget about. The good news was it's a Thursday. You have extra time to get ready for the next game. Jacksonville, though, the bad news is Jacksonville's probably going to take over first place in the AFC South by themselves because they play the Browns. Looking ahead to next Sunday real quick, the Titans will be at the Colts at noon. I guess right now you hope that Jacksonville does not look good against the Browns. I mean, I don't see how they can play the Browns any worse than the Titans did a couple weeks ago. So definitely not hold my breath for the Browns to upset the Jags, but that's about where the Titans are at right now. They've got to get this thing turned around. If they don't, Mularkey is in some hot water. There are already upset people with Mularkey. I know a lot of people did not want him to be hired as the coach. Had the interim tag taken off, but he was. You have talent on that roster, and this is as weak as the AFC South is ever going to be. So if you cannot win the AFC South now, are you ever going to be able to win the AFC South? The answer to that is more than likely no. So yeah, he's going to be in some hot water. Just looking down the schedule real quick, who you got left after the loss last night. You're at the Colts the next week. You're at home against the Texans. Then you're at the Cardinals, at the 49ers. And then on Christmas Eve, you're hosting the Rams. And then your season wraps up New Year's Eve against the Jags. Obviously, that Jags game, well, not obviously. If Tennessee's playing like they are, it won't mean anything. But it's setting up like that New Year's Eve game at home against the Jags could determine who wins the South and if the Titans make the playoffs or not. You've got to, looking at the schedule, the Colts have struggled, but historically you struggle with the Colts. And then the Texans are not great. Deshaun Watson's out. Tom Savage is their quarterback. Then again, the whole division is not good. And then if you skip ahead a couple weeks, the Niners, surely that's a win. It's at the Niners. You can't guarantee a win ever with the Titans, but the Niners are 1-10. They got their first win last weekend against the New York Giants. But that Jags game at the end of the season could end up being huge. It's looking that way now, but that's assuming the Titans don't completely screw the pooch and are out of it by New Year's Eve. The loss, I think it was Christmas Eve last year, the loss to the Jags ended the Titans' playoff hopes. And it looks like that could be the case again this year, but on New Year's Eve. So enough with the depressing Titans news. We're gonna end on Tennessee football with all the coaching rumors. So we're kind of gonna skip ahead and hit other parts of the college football slate. This is not a very good college football slate at all. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that normally we break down the top game in every slate. Well, that's not even possible because there's not great games in every slate. So what we did, obviously Tennessee is number one in local interest and of games that matter. So we will save them for last. So what we did other than that, we picked the top 3 games outside of the Tennessee game that we are going to break down real quick for you. In my opinion, the biggest game of the day would be Michigan at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is number 5. They're number 5 in the nation. And, well, real quick, before we get to that, I forgot the college football playoff poll came out later, so we have not addressed that yet. So I'm going to pull it up real quick, and we're going to talk about that one real quick because it was the weird Tournament of Champions thing Tuesday night. So the poll came out really late Tuesday night, and so we will talk about the new poll and then jump into the college football slate. Okay, so the new rankings. Remember last week Auburn beat Georgia. Alabama almost lost to Mississippi State. Miami throttled Notre Dame. There was a lot of shakeup going on in the college football playoff rankings. So your new top 4: number 1, Alabama; number 2, Clemson; number 3, Miami; number 4, Oklahoma; and then your next four out, if you want to borrow a basketball term, it would be number 5, Wisconsin; number 6, Auburn; number 7, Georgia; and number 8, Notre Dame. So Notre Dame fell from number 3 to number 8. Georgia fell from number 1 to number 6. Auburn went up from number 10 to number 6. Georgia fell from number 1 to number 7. Auburn went up from number 10 to number 6. Wisconsin went up 3 spots to number 5. Oklahoma moved up a spot to number 4. Miami went up 4 spots after just trouncing Notre Dame. Clemson went up 2 spots, and then Alabama went up 1 spot to number 1. So if the season ended right now, the semifinal would set up like this. Alabama would get the 1 seed against Oklahoma, and then Clemson versus Miami would be the 2 versus 3 game. If you want to keep going outside teams who don't really have a great chance, I think number 9 Ohio State still has a chance just because they're going to have to play Michigan, who's not great, but you'll still get credit for beating Michigan. But Michigan, by the way, is extremely overrated. On the new poll, they're number 24. They're 8-2, but what's his name? Harbaugh has not beaten anybody worth anything. And we will get to that in just a minute when we break down the Wisconsin-Michigan game. But Ohio State, I think, even though they're sitting at number 9 with this Saturday and next Saturday left in the season, they still have a realistic chance to make the playoff, believe it or not. Penn State, I think, is out because they can't win their division. USC, in my opinion, is out. TCU is out. Oklahoma State is out. Washington State's number 14, which we will actually talk about Washington State a little later on too. And UCF, Central Florida, they are undefeated at number 15. I feel bad for Central Florida because they easily could go undefeated. They'll get, I believe, a New Year's Six bowl, but they have no shot at making the playoff. Even if they do go 12-0 and then win the American Championship game to go 13-0, they just don't have a shot at it. And I know a lot of the talk with moving to a 14 playoff instead of just a national championship game was to give some of the smaller schools who go undefeated a chance, but you can't put UCF in there. Maybe if it was an 18 playoff, but not a 14 playoff. So we just ran through your college football rankings one more time if you missed it. If the season ended today, the college football playoff matchups would look like this. It would be number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Oklahoma, and number 2 Clemson versus number 3 Miami. So we will get back to the college football slate for this week, which is, I said a little bit ago, is extremely weak. Most of these games would not be a top 5 game if on a normal week. So instead of breaking down the best game from every window, we will just break down the best 3 games of the day and then go back and we will give you everything you could possibly want to know about Tennessee LSU. So, in my opinion, the best game of the day will be Michigan at Wisconsin. The Badgers have to beat Michigan to keep their playoff hopes alive. And Jim Harbaugh really needs to beat a good team. Believe it or not, I think Harbaugh will really, the heat will really turn up on him in Ann Arbor if he does not start beating better teams. I mean, he can't beat Ohio State. He struggled against Penn State. He struggled against Michigan State in his career. He does have a good chance to beat a number 5 team in the country Saturday. And yeah, it's on the road, but this would be about the easiest top 5 win you can ever get, because I do not think Wisconsin is one of the 5 best teams in the nation. They've played a glorified high school schedule, and they're undefeated, and they're in the Big Ten. That's why they're number 5. But I mean, their division is trash. Their schedule has been trash. They've played 1 game so far this year, and it was last week against Iowa. And I mean, yeah, Iowa beat the dog crap out of Ohio State, but that was Ohio State going to Iowa, not taking them seriously, not being ready for the game. You can't tell me that Iowa is a team that you can write down on your resume as, I beat Iowa, I deserve to go to the playoff. No, that's bullcrap. Wisconsin just has not played anybody. And this overrated, shouldn't be ranked Michigan team, who they play tomorrow, is their second biggest test. And this is just sad, but that's how we are. The Big Ten East is loaded. The other division, not so much. And Wisconsin is the beneficiary of that this year. The Badgers will end their season next week at Minnesota, so Wisconsin should finish undefeated. But to be fair to the Badgers, it sounds like I'm hating on the Badgers. No, they haven't had a tough schedule, but they will have to play at least 1 game, because they will have to play in the Big Ten championship game against the winner of the Big Ten East. So they will have at least 1 game they're actually going to have to play against a good team. But on the other hand, I don't think there's a team in the country that would not want to trade places with with Wisconsin. You mean to tell me you don't think Georgia would want to trade schedules with Wisconsin? You don't think Auburn would want to change schedules with Wisconsin? You don't think Notre Dame would want to trade schedules with Wisconsin? They all are, not Notre Dame, Miami. Notre Dame's done. You can kiss them goodbye. But you don't think Miami would rather trade schedules with Wisconsin? Everybody would. They've had a cakewalk of a season, and they're going to walk straight into the Big Ten championship game without playing anybody. But I mean, you can't blame them. It's not their fault that their division of the Big Ten is down, and they've done everything they need to do. They've won every game, and they got to beat Michigan tomorrow, and they got to beat Minnesota the next week, Thanksgiving week. In this game tomorrow, Wisconsin is a 7.5-point favorite at Camp Randall, and they have a 78% chance of winning the game according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Believe it or not, this supposedly best game of the day is an 11 a.m. Central Time kick on Fox. So that one will be the game to start off the college football slate. The second biggest game of the weekend, this is where you're really just like, are you kidding me? This is our second best game of the day. It is California at Stanford. California is not any good. They're 5-5. They can be bowl eligible. But Stanford still has an outside shot of winning the Pac-12 North. They're tied with Washington State for the Pac-12 North, but the Cougs beat them in the head-to-head matchup. So Stanford has to win out, plus get help from Washington next weekend in the Apple Cup because Stanford beat Washington last week. So they are ahead of the Huskies. They need the Huskies. That means Stanford needs to win tomorrow and next weekend. And they need Washington to beat Washington State next Saturday in order for Stanford to win the Pac-12 North and play USC in the Pac-12 championship. Getting back to California real quick, the Golden Bears are not having a very good season. I don't remember if many of y'all stayed up and watched it or whatever, but towards the beginning of the season, I think it was back in September, Ole Miss went and played at California. It was a late game, ended at like 1 o'clock in the morning our time, and they did beat Ole Miss. Vegas does not like Cal's chance to win the game. They're 16-point underdogs, and ESPN's FPI only gives them an 11.5% chance to steal a road win. Me personally, I don't think it's going to be a good game, but there is a whole lot riding on it for Stanford, because Stanford's got to go into this thinking that they still have a shot, because they do. There is a real shot that they can win the Pac-12 North, but they have to win. If they lose tomorrow, there is no shot. So, big game for them. And I guess it's a big game for Cal too, because they still can go 7-5 on the year. But bigger game for Stanford in terms of winning the conference. This game is at 7 o'clock Central Time on Fox. And then the third biggest game of the day, we're going to stay in the Pac-12. We got a Utah at Washington. Utah can be bowl eligible with a win, but if you paid attention to the last game we just talked about, it's a bigger game for the Huskies, because Wisconsin's loss at Stanford last week really put them behind the 8 ball, but they are not completely dead yet. They are in terms of the college football playoff, but not in terms of the Pac-12 standings. A Washington win and a Stanford loss would, so if Cal could somehow go into Stanford and win, and Washington hold serve against Utah, that would set up a showdown for the Pac-12 North next week when Washington faces Washington State in the Apple Cup. Washington should have their way with Utah, but Husky fans don't get too excited over California and Stanford, because that's more than likely Cal is not gonna be able to play with Stanford. In this game, though, Washington is an 18-point favorite, and ESPN's Football Power Index gives Washington a 94% chance of winning the game. This is the ESPN Pac-12 After Dark game, and it will kick off at 9:30 Central Time on ESPN. Okay, so we have gotten all of the other stuff out of the way. We talked about the Grizzlies, the Titans, the extremely weak college football slate. So now it is time to talk Tennessee football. And before we talk, we are going to end the podcast with the GRUMORS, end it with the fun stuff. We're going to talk the actual football game now. Tennessee is set to host LSU tomorrow night, Saturday night, 6 o'clock Central. It is the ESPN primetime game. And this will be the first game for Tennessee without Butch Jones on the sideline. Brady Hoke will fill in for Jones as the interim coach. And this is the first time he will be on the sideline as a head coach since 2014 in Ann Arbor. As if it's a big deal or not, Brady Hoke did say he would wear a headset. If you remember back to his days at Michigan, he did not like wearing a headset. If you go just the on-paper matchup, this shouldn't be a game. LSU should wipe the floor with Tennessee. But with everything that has gone on in the past week, well, really the whole season, with how down Tennessee's been, and then Sunday, it feels like just a huge weight has been lifted off of everyone when they announced that Butch Jones would be fired and would not finish out the rest of the season. The fan base is recharged. Hopefully the team is recharged with the new guy calling plays, because Tennessee has a ton of talent. They have talent everywhere, and it looks to anybody with eyes that they just quit about second quarter of the Georgia game, and they haven't tried to play a game since then. So maybe with a new guy calling plays, that would help bring some life back to the Tennessee football program. Neyland Stadium should be rocking. It's a night game. The fan base is all excited again. They still have an outside shot to make a bowl game, so I would expect a raucous crowd. Tennessee is a 16-point underdog, and LSU has a 77% chance of walking into Neyland Stadium and beating the Vols under the lights. As of right now, we do not know who will start at quarterback for the Vols, but just going back on Brady Hoke's comments Monday in his presser, it sounds like Garantano will be healthy enough to play. It is, I think, officially a game-time decision, so we will not know till Saturday night. But it sounds like he should play. On the kind of dark side for the Tennessee football team, there are a whole lot of distractions around the program, mainly being the GRUMORS. Hopefully the football team has found a way to stay out of all that, but I don't really see how it's possible because the groomers have just gotten out of control, and they're just crazy. I don't know how anybody in the state of Tennessee, much less somebody that close to the program as being a football player, could stay away from the groomers. So now that I personally think in this game, Saturday night, I think Tennessee can keep it close. It will be cold. There's a decent chance of rain. The crowd will be loud. I think LSU wins, but I think Tennessee keeps it close. I think it's still a good game in the fourth quarter. I think they give the fans something to cheer about, and I think it's just an exciting game and maybe one of the better games in all of college football this weekend. So we've talked about the game. That game, again, is 6 o'clock kick on ESPN, 6 o'clock Central Time kick. So now we've covered all of that. We will dive into some of the groomers. They've been everywhere. Wednesday and yesterday were some of the hottest days so far for groomers ever. Yesterday you had thousands of Tennessee fans watching some dude's Periscope from the Knoxville airport, trying to see private planes flying in and out of Knoxville. You had thousands of Tennessee fans, including me, tracking planes online, trying to find out the latest on the groomers. It looked like Gruden had agreed to a deal yesterday, and then it looked like he didn't. Then it looked like he did, and then last night, last thing you know before you go to bed is that he turned them down. Then you wake up this morning and everybody's saying he's coming, and now they're saying he's not, and you really have no idea what to think. All of these are just rumors, but Gruden had two chances yesterday to kind of distance himself from the Tennessee job and kind of quiet down the rumors, and he did not do that. First, he was on Mike and Mike early Thursday morning on ESPN Radio, and he didn't do anything to slow the rumors down. He actually ended his he said he was happy with his job, but then he ended that same sentence with never say never to nothing, referring to getting back into coaching. And then later that day, this one was the one that really got people excited in Tennessee. He was on with Brock Heward in Seattle, which, for context, this was not just 100% Gruden being a troll. Heward is supposed to be calling the game for ESPN Saturday night, the Tennessee and LSU game, and Gruden was on in Seattle because he is calling the Monday Night Football game in Seattle. So that's how this came up. But Gruden was talking about Heward going to Tennessee for the weekend, and he was talking about how much he told Heward he better sing Rocky Top because it's a great song. But he was never asked about it, and that got Tennessee fans all riled up because he kind of just brought that up out of the blue. So Gruden had two real chances yesterday to kind of distance himself from the Tennessee job and quiet the rumors, but he did not. If anything, he fanned the flames and made them worse. Nobody really knows outside of Gruden if he's going to take the job. There's plenty of rumors everywhere, rumors that he said no, rumors that he's already been hired and that they're going to announce it tonight, and then rumors that he's going to be hired but they are going to wait till after the game and announce it Sunday. Rumors that he completely said no and they've moved on, to that they've already offered Mike Norvell of Memphis the job. I don't know what to believe. I tend to think it's about 60-40 that Tennessee will not get John Gruden. I would not be surprised if they get him, but I don't expect them to. But I do know this. Even if they did reach a deal last night or this morning, you don't gain anything from announcing it today or yesterday or tomorrow, definitely not tomorrow. To be fair to your players and to be fair to your interim coaching staff, you would wait till after the LSU game to announce that. Now, you don't have to wait a whole nother week to it after the season when they play Vandy next week to announce it. But I think you at least wait till Sunday, if not Monday, after the LSU game to announce it, just to be fair to your players, to be fair to your seniors, and to be fair to your interim coaching staff. So that could happen. But let's say he hasn't been hired. None of this is true. He's either turned the job down or they never even offer it to him. if John Curry or John Gruden knows for sure that he is not coming to Knoxville, especially John Gruden, I don't think this is as much on Curry as it is on Gruden. I think he owes it to the fan base to go ahead and put the rumors to bed. Vol fans have continually taken donkey punches to the family jewels year after year after year, and they continue to love the Vols more than ever before. And this one would be just another monster kick to the nuts if it's not true. And the longer this thing goes on, the worse it's going to be for Tennessee fans, for whoever the next coach is, for John Curry. And Tennessee fans they owe it to Tennessee fans to let them know that he is not coming if that is indeed not ever going to happen. But then on the other side of that, if he doesn't come and we don't know anything about it yet, that doesn't mean that he's turned the job down right now. This is obviously a big decision for him. He's got a good job he likes, calling Monday Night Football. He lives in Tampa Bay. His son is in Knoxville already. So what's going to happen when his son's in school and he loses a game next year that he shouldn't lose, and people are all talking crap all over about his dad all over the state? It's going to be bad for his son. But then if he doesn't take the job, people are going to be mad at him. It's not going to be good for his son. But the point of this is it's a big deal. It's a big life decision for Gruden. He might not know yet. He might really be thinking about it. So if that's the case, then obviously they're not going to say yes or no. And I don't think anybody could blame him for wanting to take his time and think this through, because it is a big decision. Accepting the head coaching job at the University of Tennessee is not someone that me as a Tennessee fan wants the new coach to take lightly. I want him to devote his time to it. I want him to love the Vols as much as I love the Vols, and I want that fan base or that football program to be back where it should be, competing for national championships in the SEC East year after year. And if it means that it takes a little bit to find a coach, and that the guys you're interviewing have to really decide if they're willing to put 100% into the job, then take your time. Just whenever you make your decision, if it is a negative outcome, if he says no, let Tennessee fans know so that they can mentally regroup, because the last thing you want is to not hear anything on John Gruden, and then Tennessee hires a really good coach like a Dan Mullen, and he doesn't get the warm reception he deserves because people had their mind on John Gruden. That's not going to be fair to Dan Mullen. I personally would be beside myself excited if we could get Dan Mullen, but the worst possible thing in my mind would be for Tennessee fans to have their hearts set on Gruden, it not happen, and us, the first thing we get a definite on it is when the reports come out that they have hired a Dan Mullen or a Scott Frost, somebody that could really be good in Knoxville and win a whole lot of games, and that's not fair to anybody. That's not fair to your players. It's definitely not fair to the guy you're hiring. So just we need some definite news. The rumors are fun, and they've been fun, but at some point they've got to stop. And I believe that the longer this goes not necessarily without hearing of someone else being interviewed, but the longer this goes without John Gruden being the coach, the less of a chance they have to get him. That's just my opinion. I don't have any inside sources telling me that. That's just my gut feeling. But should be a fun weekend. It's about 3:45 now on Friday Central Time, so that means it's almost 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Chill out tonight. I don't think we're going to hear any breaking news on John Gruden tonight. It's too close to the LSU game. We definitely won't hear it tomorrow, but Sunday could be a day that we hear some news, whether it be good or bad. At this point, I think it would be I would take bad news if it means that it's confirmed, because I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want the rest of Tennessee fans to get their hopes up any more than they already are if there's no realistic chance that we get John Gruden. That's my opinion. Maybe you disagree. You probably do disagree. If you do, let me know. Comment on the podcast. Let me know. I want to hear what y'all have to think about this. And hopefully the Grizzlies will get a win Saturday, and Tennessee will get a win Saturday, and we come back and we talk next week, and it's fun. I want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week.